What is going on, guys? Rogue TCG here for another Yu-Gi-Oh! TCG deck profile. Now, this was a Discord request, so I am going to be bringing it to you. Here is cyberdragon Fiendsmith. Now, at first, I didn't really think there was too many synergistic things with both of these decks. However, there are two large synergies between Fiendsmiths and cyberdragons. The main thing is located in one card, Fabled Lurie. This card reads, if this card is discarded to the graveyard, you get a special summon it. It's a light fiend, all good there. Main thing, if it's discarded to the graveyard, you get a special summon it, and it's a light monster. So this means we can discard it to the graveyard with Galaxy Soldier in order to special summon itself, and then summon the Lurie to get our full Fiendsmith line. Or we can send it to the graveyard with a cyberdragon Nashter, and if we don't choose to bring back a monster from our graveyard, we're not machine locked for the rest of the turn, so we do get to keep playing our Fiendsmith line. So we have two different ways in Archetype that are both searchable in order to access a way to discard our Fabled Lurie, as well as all the other Fiendsmith cards that will just enable us to do similar-ish things. Another main benefit to playing the Fiendsmith engine is having access to Beatrice as of right now while it's still legal. Hopefully it gets banned, but this video is made before it got banned, so if it is banned, my apologies. But Beatrice is here in order to send Clockwork Knight to the graveyard in order to add a copy of Therion King Regulus from deck to hand to have a negation with cyberdragon Hertz, for example, attached to it. So if we do choose to negate, we also get a search off of cyberdragon Hertz. But that's enough yapping of what I hope this deck can do. Let's get to the card by card. Starting off, we're on triple cyberdragon core. These cards are always going to consider themselves cyberdragon while on field or in graveyard. On normal summon, mandatory, we have to add a cyber spell trap from deck to hand. And if this card is in your graveyard and your opponent controls a monster, you can banish from your graveyard to special summon a cyber dragon from your deck. And then each core effect is a once per turn, and you can only use one core effect per turn. Core is still very good because it lets you add cyber emergency, cyber power plant, cyber repair plant, and cybernetic overload, as well as a copy of cyber dark realm because it is still a cyber card. This also allows us to go through a lot of different lines depending on what our hand is looking like through Cyberdragon Core. We don't necessarily have to go through the Fiendsmith line if we don't have a hand that works for it. Instead, we can just attempt to OTK or set up a board. Next, we're on triple of the default Cyberdragon. This is going to allow us to go second a lot better with cards like Chimera Tech Mega Fleet Dragon to eat up our opponent's cards that are located in the extra monster zone. We do also want to be playing 3 in case we do draw it, so we have 2 targets in deck for machine duplication. We are on triple Cyberdragon Hertz. This is a great discard either with one of our multiple cards to discard like Soldier and Nashter, or with a card like Fiendsmith Tract in order to get that effect to search, because when this card is sent to the graveyard, we can add another Cyberdragon from either our deck or graveyard to our hand. It only adds the default Cyberdragon from deck to hand. However, if we have any like Cyberdragon Core or Nashter in our graveyard, we can add those from graveyard to hand instead of the default Cyberdragon, because they're always, again, considered Cyberdragon in the graveyard. This card also has an effect where if it's special summoned, we can make its level become 5 until the end of the turn, and we are locked into machines, although that effect does not come up nearly as much as the other effect. We already went over Nashter. Nashter does also have the effect when it is special summoned. We can choose to special summon a monster with 2100 attack or defense from our graveyard, but then we are locked into machines for the rest of the turn. So it is something that is usable if we are not planning on doing Fiendsmith plays. However, if we are planning on doing Fiendsmith plays, we're most likely just going to summon this for the body it provides. We're on triple cyber emergency. We get to add a light machine monster that cannot be normal summoned or set, or a cyber dragon monster from our deck to our hand. And if the activation of this card in our owner's possession is negated by your opponent's card effect and sent to the graveyard, we can pitch a card to add it from our graveyard to our hand, and we can only activate 1 cyber emergency per turn. This is another way we can discard a Fabled Lurie or a cyber dragon Hertz if it really comes up, but most of the time this card is going to get Ash Blossomed, which does not actually allow us to get it back from graveyard to hand, which is unfortunate, but that's how it is. We're on 1 Cyber Repair Plant. If a Cyber Dragon is in your graveyard, you can activate one of these effects. If you have 3 or more Cyber Dragons in our graveyard, this card's activation, we can activate both effects and resolve in sequence. We can either add a light machine from our deck to our hand, or target a light machine in our graveyard and shuffle that target into deck. We don't really want to be shuffling cards into our deck. Our cards like being in graveyard. However, adding any light machine from deck to hand is very powerful. Hint, hint, nudge, nudge, Galaxy Soldier is a light machine. We can also add a card like Jizikiri, the Star Destroying Kaiju. I'm not playing it in the list. However, if you were to be playing it, that is also a great target for this card. We're on 1 Cybernetic Overflow. We can banish Cyber Dragons at different levels from our hand, face of field, and our graveyard, and then destroy an equal number of cards our opponent controls. Non-target destruction is great. If this card in the field is destroyed by card effect, we can add a Cyber spell trap from our deck to our hand. And each effect of Cybernetic Overflow is a once per turn. This is still just a great card. It's a searchable card. And if we are going first, this is what we want to attempt to set up. Especially if our opponent isn't knowledgeable about the fact that we have this card. This card is a really great trap card because what traps are Cyber Dragon setting, you know? They're an OTK deck, but we do have one really good one. We're on 1 Cyberdark Chimera. We can pitch a spell trap to add a power bomb from deck to hand, and we can only use dragons or machines as fusion material this turn. Also, when you fusion summon this turn, we can also banish cards from our graveyard as material. If this card is sent to the graveyard, we can send a Cyberdark monster from our deck to the graveyard with a different name from cards in our graveyard. That second effect isn't relevant because this is the only Cyberdark card in our deck. However, that first effect is really great, allowing us to trade like a Clockwork Knight or an extra machine dupe or emergency in order to get a power bond, and then we can treat that power bond like an overload fusion just to try and kill our opponent with our Rampage Dragon. We're on 1 Cyberdark Realm. When this card's activated, we can add a Cyberdark monster from our deck to our hand with a different name for the cards in our graveyard. And then during the main phase, we can immediately after this effect resolves, normal summon a Cyberdark monster. We can use the previous effect of Cyberdark Realm once per turn, and if we equip a monster from the graveyard by an effect of Cyberdark monster that is activated when it was normal summoned or special summoned, we can equip from our opponent's graveyard instead. That equipping effect is not relevant. Again, we're not playing Cyberdarks. However, this is a card that allows us to search for Cyberdark Chimera as well as get an additional normal summon to then summon the Cyberdark Chimera. So we can go Core to add Realm, Realm to add Chimera, Chimera normal summon, then discard, and then we can go through our Moon of the Closed Heaven line, because then we will have 1 machine in graveyard and 1 Cyber Dragon in graveyard, and if we get a second one, we can go into Rampage again. We're on that 1 Power Bomb that I mentioned. We're only running 1 in the main deck, but if you are planning on going second, I would recommend running multiple just because it can just kill your opponent flat out. We're on triple Galaxy Soldier because we really want to see it. We can send one other light monster from our hand to the graveyard to special summon this card from our hand in defense. When it is special summon, we can add a Galaxy monster from our deck to our hand. We can use that second effect of Galaxy Soldier once per turn. So essentially what this means is we can special Galaxy Soldier and then search another Galaxy Soldier, and then if we have another light in hand, we can just special it again, and then make a Cyber Dragon Nova and then into Infinity, just to make a quick Omni Negate on turn 1. I believe that it'll make Infinity the 4th summon if that is the first thing we are doing. It'll even make it the 5th summon if we pitch a Fabled Lurie off that first Galaxy Soldier. We are on triple machine duplication. We can target Core, Hertz, or Nastra since they are all considered the default Cyber Dragon on field. And if we use machine duplication on them, we can just summon the normal Cyber Dragons straight out of our deck. And that is a combo too good to give up, so we are playing triple machine duplication. Already on over Regulus, this is an Omni Negate, and we can target a machine in our graveyard to equip it in order to special it from hand. And then the Clocker Knight to special it, to search it rather. And then this card's also really great in Cyber Dragon in general. All face-up monsters on the field become machine monsters, and then the rest of the text actually isn't relevant, unfortunately. The rest of the effect is still pretty good. It lowers your opponent's attack and raises your attack, making them have 1,000 difference between them. However, the main effect is making your opponent's machines in this deck, because we have an extra card, Chimera Tech Fortress Dragon, that sees a Cyber Dragon and 1+ machine monsters. Cannot be used as fusion material, must first be special from your extra deck by sending the above cards from the field to the graveyard. And if you notice, that's from either field to the graveyard. So you can just eat up your opponent's entire board the moment the Clockwork Knight resolves and you have a Cyber Dragon on field, which is just like the best form of removal since it is one that doesn't start a chain, one that is non-destruction, and all of that. Just really great stuff. And then for our Fiendsmith engine, we're on triple Fiendsmith Tract, triple Fiendsmith Engraver, and double Fabled Lurie. We're playing 2 Lurie just because we do want to be seeing it in our opener because we want to be pitching it off of Nastra or Soldier. So there is even an argument to cut a Fiendsmith and to add a 3rd copy of Fabled Lurie. And then our last 3 cards are a double Droplet and 1 Called by the Grave. In our extra deck is very tight. The only freebie card in here is going to be an SP Little Knight. We're on 1 Fiendsmith Requiem, 1 Moon of the Closed Heaven, 1 Fiendsmith Sequence, Necroquip Princess, Disarray, and Lacrima, as well as M7 and Beatrice for our Fiendsmith engine. Beatrice is here to send our Clockwork Knight, but it can also be here to send a Cyber Dragon Hertz to graveyard if we have a core in graveyard and we need to do that sort of thing. It also allows us to send extra Fiendsmith Engravers to the graveyard if we want to be playing through extra interaction. And we're on M7 because it allows us to go through our basic Fiendsmith line in case we get interacted with. It's also great removal in terms of just returning stuff, as well as allowing us to return cards from our graveyard to our hand. like Cyberdragon, Nasher, or Galaxy Soldier. We are on, for our Cyberdragon engine, we are 1 Seeger, 1 Nova, and 1 Infinity, 1 Mega Fleet, 1 Fortress, and 1 Rampage. I already went over Fortress, and then Mega Fleet is like Fortress, but only for monsters in the EMZ. So that's those two explained, and let me go over the other ones. We're on 1 Seeger, needs 2 machine monsters, including a Cyberdragon. If this card's name becomes Cyberdragon on the field in the graveyard. During each battle phase, if this card is not declared an attack, quick effect, we can target 1 monster we control that's machine with 2100 or more attack. For the rest of the turn, that monster gains 2100 attack and defense. Also, neither player takes any battle damage from attacks involving this monster. So what we want to be doing is only going Seeger in order to give the attack to another monster we control in order to just OTK our opponent, and Seeger doesn't actually have to attack. Also keep in mind that attack gain is a quick effect, so we are able to do it in response to our opponent attacking another one of our monsters, especially if Clockwork Knight is on field and we have something like a Disarray and our opponent's trying to attack it. We can actually buff our own Disarray because it is considered a machine, and Seeger only cares about it being a machine. So it is a way to cheekily buff our Disarray, or if we choose to play Apollousa, we could also buff our Apollousa in the combat step. We're on 1 Nova. Nova, once per turn, we can attach a material, target a Cyberdragon in our graveyard to then special summon that target. And once per turn, quick effect, we can banish Cyber from our hand or our face-up monster zone. This card gains 200 attack. That attack gain isn't as valuable as it may seem. However, that Monster Reborn effect is quite strong. Keep in mind, we do need to have a Cyberdragon in graveyard to even activate that effect. So we can't just detach a Cyberdragon and then target that same Cyberdragon. However, if we do have a Cyberdragon in graveyard, we can attach that Cyberdragon, since we do have the Cyberdragon in graveyard, and then target the same one we detached. So we can't activate it if we don't have a Cyberdragon, like we can't activate it, period. But if we do have an activatable Cyberdragon target in graveyard, we can add back the material we detached instead of the one that's already in graveyard, if that makes sense. But the main reason we are playing this is because we can just rank up on top 1 Cyberdragon Infinity. This is quite literally just an Omni Negate. It gains a small attack boost based on material attached to it. And on ignition on your opponent on your turn, we get to attach a card they control to it as material. Just a really great card in general. No faults to this. One funny thing is we can actually theoretically hard make this card if we have Clockwork Knight and 3 Fiendsmith Engravers on field, since they are all treated as machines with Clockwork Knight and they are light by default. We can just hard make a Cyberdragon Infinity. There's a little challenge to those of you who wish to net deck this deck. If you can show me a replay of you hard making Infinity, I will chuckle. And then our last card, our main OTK tool, is a Chimera Tech Rampage Dragon. It needs 2+ Cyberdragon monsters. A fusion summon of this card can only be done with the above fusion materials. When this card is fusion summoned, you can target spells and traps on the field up to the number of materials used for its fusion summon and destroy them, so great for removing back row. And once per turn, you can send up to 2 light machines from our deck to the graveyard, and if we do, for each monster sent to the graveyard, this card gains 1 additional attack during each battle phase this turn. Which means that's an additional attack, which means this card can attack 3 times, and if we double its attack, with 2 attacks, your opponent is dead. So that 3rd attack is a little overkill. However, sometimes it may be necessary, but this is our main way of just killing our opponent. Not only does it remove the back row that can potentially stop you from just killing them, but it also will just destroy their life total if they don't actually have the appropriate blockers for it. Another thing, this is a level 5 machine, so we can make Nova with it in a hurry. But I think that is about it. I think this deck is really cool. I'm not sure if it's better or worse than pure Cyberdragon. There is a lot of non-Cyberdragon cards, and some hands just don't end up working out, especially cans that open blurry with no way to get to Soldier or Nasher. However, that is the fault of wanting a fun deck that includes multiple engines in a differing way than the meta is currently playing them. But that's about it for the profile. Please let me know your thoughts about the deck in the description below, and I will be seeing you all later. Bye-bye. Thank you guys so much for watching the video. If you wanted to talk to more Yu-Gi-Oh players like yourself, I would highly recommend checking out our Discord server. Link is going to be in the description, as well as the QR code on screen. We do talk somewhat frequently about Yu-Gi-Oh and the current meta, so I would really enjoy to see you there. As well as we do recently now have channel memberships available on our YouTube channel. where we have 3 different tiers. We have Super Supporter at $2 a month, where you get loyalty badges, emojis, guaranteed comment responses, a shout out at the end of every video, as well as access to the members only Discord channel, where you get early sneak peeks at future videos. There is the Giga Supporter at $5 a month, where you have early access to all new videos about a day or two before they go up, as well as all the previous offers. And for $15 a month, we do have our final tier, which is going to be Femboy Fanatic. You get a guaranteed customized video every single month, as well as 1 hour of my time. Could be for anything you'd like. You want a duel? Absolutely. You want me to help build a deck? Absolutely. You want to play some Helldivers? Sure. I'll do anything for an hour once a month. But supporting does help me out quite a lot, and it does help me produce all of these videos. So thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll be seeing y'all later. Bye-bye.